So, welcome to including your body in the creation of money. Uh, this call was created. We had uh, we have a Hungarian Telegram thread that is for like people who want to tap into my stuff that live in Hungary and speak Hungarian, and we did a little poll in there to see, we were going to do a free call just for the Hungarians, and then we were like, let's open it up to everybody. But we did a little poll to see, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? And people were like, bodies and money were a tie. So we're like, well, let's do both then. So that's how this baby was born, and a lot of people will be catching it afterwards. We'll probably put it up on YouTube in all the languages. And thank you in advance for the translators for being here. We're translating into Czech, Spanish, Hungarian. Anything else? I don't remember. Yeah. So anyway, and it's an interesting topic, this idea of including your body in the creation of money. It not something that most people think about when they function more from like standard operating procedure, right? Money is its own thing. Your body is its own thing. They have nothing to do with each other, according to, how most people think. And of course, this is, well, I will say, like, not of course, because you may not know this, but this is a call where we will be using the tools of access consciousness. So most of you probably know what that is, but if you don't, it's a beautiful, energetic body of tools and conversations and energies that really allow us to function very differently in the world and create things that are very different and be very different. And it's cool. I actually just finished right before this started. I recorded a podcast that'll go out next week with Christopher Hughes. Many of you know him probably. He's also an access facilitator, and he is the director of the Antique Guild, which is Gary Douglas's antique shops business in Australia. And we were we kind of like got on this podcast and we were like, well, I don't know, let's just see where we go. It was very loose. And it ended up being called creating an inclusive reality. He was talking about creating an inclusive reality. So I'm giving you a little taster teaser of what you'll get to hear next week when it comes out. But we talked about how creating an inclusive reality is like, it actually includes you. And it includes everything, like beyond judgment, but it includes you and it includes your body. And so often we think our body has nothing to do with all the other things, and it's like, this is, my body it's got its own shit. I need to just deal with that, but it has nothing to do with anything else. And the thing is that money is actually for your body for the most part. Let me also just back up and share, for those who haven't heard this, that one of the things we look at in access is that you have a body and a being. Like you are an infinite being. You've been around a long time beyond this lifetime, and you also have this amazing body, and your body has a consciousness of its own. And so your being and your body are not exactly the same. They're also not separate. The consciousness of your body is, I always kind of look at my body as like, and our bodies in general, as like these amazing facilitators that are always here with us. They're always, kind of, like it's never not there with you. Sometimes you wish it wasn't, people, or pretend like it's not, your body. But it's always there with you. And you can either reject it, separate from it, judge it, not honor it, not include it, hate it, whatever, all the things, or you can be like, wow, I've got this amazing facilitator of consciousness that is my body, that's right here with me all the time. And that's one of the things I really like to invite the world to, is this, to consider that you have a brilliant facilitator of consciousness, a brilliant organism that knows so much about consciousness, and particularly as it relates to you and your life and living, and it's there with you all the time. It never goes away. Your body never separates from you. You might separate from it, but it never separates from you. And whether you hate it or love it, or you're with it, present with it, or you're not, it's still there. And it's always willing to have, a different conversation. It's always willing to have a different exploration. It's always willing to create something different with you. I was doing a session earlier today, and this lady that I was working with, she was saying how she doesn't really, she has a lot of judgment toward her body and a lot of separation. And I said, what if you treated your body like you treated your dog, and it's kind of an interesting, it's funny because when I hear that, it's like, that could even seem sort of derogatory, but the funny, ironic, bizarre thing is, most people treat their animals with way more kindness than they treat their bodies. So what if you treated your body the way you would like your most beloved, cherished animal? And so I'm going to run a clearing now for anybody who doesn't know Access Consciousness, using the clearing statement, which is like a bunch of words, sounds like random stuff, and it just deletes all the energy. And so everything that doesn't allow you to treat your body with a lot of regard, like the kind of regard and honoring and love and adoration that you would with an animal. We destroy and uncreate all of that. Right, wrong, give out all 100 Paquad shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. And money is a part of that, because for most of us, our bodies do really enjoy pleasure. They enjoy beauty. They enjoy the deliciousness of life and living. And that was one of the things Chris and I were talking about on the podcast was, I was telling the story about how, like, one of the first times I had met him was at an Antique Guild jewelry show. And this emerald ring, like, jumped out at me and onto my hand. And it's this huge emerald. And I was like, the ring was like, I'm yours, you're mine. And my body was like, it's mine. This ring is mine, And I put it on just for shits and giggles. I was like, oh, it's way beyond my price range. Like, I'm going to just try it on just to see, because it's really pretty, And as soon as I put it on, I went, oh shit. Because my body and the ring were like, sorry, but we want to be together. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was way more than I had ever considered, way more than I had ever considered spending on jewelry, and not a necessity at all, and yet I knew that it would create something a lot greater if I bought the ring. And so I did a payment plan and all these things. And it took me, I don't know, maybe a little more than a year to pay for the ring. But I did. And Chris was saying, like, he was like, that, like, we were just talking about how it changed my life, because it really showed me, it showed me this different universe about of um how like choice really works, and how our bodies have this amazing capacity to show us what is possible. And if we are willing to honor them, then all kinds of new beautiful universes open up. And if we are not, then we stay small. I mean, we stay separate from our bodies, we stay contracted, we maintain the separation from our bodies. And my body was like, with that ring, my body was like, hey, like, there's no reason I can't have this, and it was so cool because I'm so grateful that I was willing to say yes. And I had no idea how I was going to create it. I had no idea how that ring was going to eventually end up mine. I think I had like $500, and I was like, here, it was like such a tiny fraction of what the ring cost. And I'm like, here you go, Chris, like, here's my down payment. And he was so wonderful and gracious, and he took it, and he really encouraged me, and like contributed to me stepping into a different reality with the creation of money. And so my body and the ring, like all these things, I was like, wow, okay, I guess I can choose things that I don't have the money for. And I can choose things for my body that I don't have the money for. And I can choose things for my body that are completely unnecessary that I don't have the money for. And I could have been like, oh, but I also I should probably put that money toward this or that, or, whatever, all these things that are more necessity, more justifiable, more, normal than buying a big ass Colombian emerald, but my body was like, but no, there's something different here, and so and and so in so doing, in really saying yes and honoring my body, and this, like, the possibility that this ring was and still is, I stepped into a totally different space with the creation of money. I I got to experience and kind of like facilitate myself, and my body got to facilitate me in how money gets created from choice, and how money gets created from um the the joy of having a body, and how money will show up to contribute to the joy of having a body, and to contribute to our bodies if we allow it, if we include all of it. And that our bodies are always showing us all kinds of things. And in the, in that, like, where they show us all kinds of things, it's like you can either pay attention to it and say yes to it, or you can be like, I can't afford that. I can't do that. I'm not allowed to do that, all these different things. But that's not what's true for our bodies. Our bodies don't have a point of view about anything. They're just like, hey, here's a possibility, and then we're like, no, I can't afford it. I'm not allowed to choose that. It's too much for me to choose. It's over the top, all these things. Like, I would be too, too strange, or I would be too different, or I would be too free, or I would upset my husband, partner, parents, children, I mean, there's all the people that we have in our lives that are like we're financially connected to, so there's millions of reasons why you shouldn't choose all kinds of things. Millions of reasons why you shouldn't choose all kinds of things. So everything all of that is, and everything that you've done to believe all of those reasons, will you destroy and uncreate all of that? Right, wrong, good, bad. No, 100, POC, POD, shorts, boys, POBADs, basics, Christians, and beyond. Because your body's there just going like, well, if, like, if you'd be willing to listen to me and gift the beauty, the pleasure, the enjoyment that I'm asking for, then we could have it. I mean, it's kind of as simple as that, choice actually is what creates. So if you have the point of view of like, oh, if I choose the beauty, the pleasure, the enjoyment of being alive, if I choose to honor my body, then I can have it, and if I don't, then I can't, because your point of view creates your reality. So whatever point of view you have, you're correct. Let that sink in. Whatever point of view you have about money, you are correct. I can't afford it. I don't have the money. I can't create the money. You're correct. I'll create it. Choice creates. My body will contribute to this. You're correct. Which would you like to choose? And it really is a choice. And there is there's really like an audacity, like audaciousness with choosing to live from a reality of choice, where you're like, yeah, my reality is choice. My reality is choice creates. My reality is elegance and beauty and inclusion and hedonism and pleasure and enjoying my life, that creates a particular life, and if your reality is basically poverty, anytime you tell yourself, I can't afford, or I can't, create the money for this, that's poverty. You're doing a poverty mindset, basically. So everywhere you are doing poverty with all the things that you've decided you can't choose, will you destroy and uncreate all of that? Right, wrong, good, bad, all 100, POC, POD, shorts, boys, POBADs, basics, creations, and beyonds. So what is it that would be fun for your body? What would be fun and enjoyable for your body that you have not been willing to gift to yourself, to your body? And everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right, wrong, good, bad, all 100, POC, POD, shorts, boys, POBADs, basics, creations, and beyonds. And who the hell would you be if you did? Like, who would you be if you had that much choice, that much freedom, that much fun, that much pleasure, that much hedonism, beauty, aliveness, joy, freedom, freedom, freedom? How dare you? Who would you be? Everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right, wrong, good, bad, all 100, POC, POD, shorts, boys, POBADs, basics, creations, and beyonds. One of the things that Chris and I were talking about is, I was like, you're going to be judged no matter what. Like, that's just how people function. There are rare people that don't. But for the most part, you're going to be judged by somebody in the world for something that you do or don't do. You can't really escape a reality of judgment. People judge all the time, all day long, up and down, right and left, front to back. Like, they judge constantly, and they judge other people constantly. So you're gonna be judged. There's no getting out of it. Now, if that's the case, then hey, who cares? Like, just, you're going to be judged for something. So you may as well choose what would be fun for you and your body, because you'll be judged for that. But if you don't, you'll be judged for something else. So why not? Oh, and by the way, judgment, if you're willing to receive judgment, which basically just means you allow it, you don't have a point of view about it, you don't resist it or fight it. Judgment is one of those things that will actually increase your money flows. So we always say in Access, like, for every judgment that you're willing to receive, it's like adding $5,000 to your bank account for the year. for every judgment that you are unwilling to receive, meaning you have to defend against it, prove that you're not that, fight it, resist it, avoid it, you lose $10,000 for the year. So, you could be willing to receive a judgment and be, in the $15,000 in the plus, so and I love that perspective, because it's just, of course it's not a measurable thing, but it's like, but I mean, in a way you see I think any of us who have played with that, the willingness to receive judgment, which is just really the willingness to be more and be greater, it will, like, your money flows will just grow. That's just what happens. They just grow. And if you're like shrinking yourself and shrinking your life to not be judged, your money flows will shrink. That's just kind of it's a byproduct, and money really is a byproduct of our willingness to be something greater and different, which translates to our willingness to receive. Money is a byproduct of that. If you're willing to be more and greater, if you're willing to receive more and greater, which very much includes your body, money will just show up. And sometimes it takes some time for that to occur. But if you're constantly choosing this reality of pleasure and joy and, like really honoring your body and including your body, it's like, there's the money will follow that. So you can choose to create money by focusing on money and being like, I need to make money. How am I going to make money? Money, 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 money. The thing about that is that for the seekers of the world that we call like the humanoids in access, you're not going to, money doesn't really matter that much. Money in and of itself, like alone, stand alone, it's very arbitrary. I mean, it's just this thing that some people made up a long time ago. Everybody believed in it, got on board, and now we have money. I mean, it was developed as like a way of facilitating trade and commerce, but everybody had to agree to place a particular value in money to have it be something, and I think a lot of humanoids, seekers, the different people in the world are like, on some level, it's like, yeah, what the hell is money anyway? Like, it's like paper or numbers on a computer, that's all that it is, so it doesn't actually have inherent value. It's inherent. Money itself doesn't have inherent value, cash or numbers on a computer, right? Unless we're talking about gold and silver and stuff, and but even then it's like, okay, well, still, what is inherently valuable for humanoids is peace, joy, ease, beauty, having fun, like truly enjoying our lives. And if you're not enjoying your body, can you enjoy your life? No. We all know that. If you feel like shit, if you're sick, if you're in pain or whatever, that's all you're going to be basically focused on, is feeling better in your body, And I heard Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he said, a healthy person has a million dreams, a sick person has one, right? So if your body's not functioning well, if you are struggling with your body, if you're, not, like, if you're in pain or you're sick or whatever, That's gonna be the thing that you care the most about, so that or either that, or you're gonna just try to separate from it so much that you don't notice it, which is what a lot of people do. They're like, I don't have anything from the neck down. Like, what are you talking about, body? But that doesn't work. Like, eventually that catches up to you, and that doesn't work. Like, that's not, because your body will get sicker and sicker, and it will do all kinds of things to get your attention, so that you listen to it. And if you refuse, then it'll just keep, it will keep diminishing itself, basically. And everything diminishes as a result of that. So you have a body. What are you going to do with it? And it probably has more value to you than money in isolation, right? And so what if you turn your focus from, I'm going to create money, I need to create money, to, I'm going to choose joy. I'm going to choose ease. I'm going to choose to have fun. I'm going to choose pleasure. I'm going to choose to really enjoy the fuck out of having a body, being on the planet, like being alive, swimming in the water and walking through the woods and feeling the soil underneath my feet, and, all these beautiful things, like eating beautiful food, and having a deliciously comfortable bed to sleep in, and, being able to travel and explore, and, all these things. Body work. I mean, gosh, I love body work. I'm such a fan of, having people touch me. That, people that are kind, and, that my body would like to have touch me. But all those things. And it's like, that's money. Money will just come, it will just flow with a lot of ease in to fund all of that. If your focus and your choice is on the joy, the ease, the glory, the pleasure. And that might sound very kind of like, idealistic. And, it's actually, I mean, for me, it's not like, it's actually pragmatic. Because for me, what I've found, and what I've found for most humanoids that I know, and have talked to over the years, is like, it's just, um, it's just when you're just trying to create money for the sake of money, and like the stability that you've decided it's going to provide you, and the safety, and you get out of fear, and you get to stop worrying, that never happens. Like, have you ever had enough money, or like so much money, where you just never thought about it, and it never created any stress in your life? Like, probably not, because money is arbitrary, but what we would, because so often we think, like, I need to have money so that I can choose. But that emerald ring story that I told you, I didn't have money to choose that at the time. I chose, and the money showed up. And if there's any sort of lightness in your world around this conversation, then that may be true for you as well. May said, I've been walking today, and swimming in the lake, and now cooking yummy food, and still asking for more pleasure. Yeah. And that's the kind of, like, that's when we look at like the pleasure of being a humanoid, being a seeker, being a different person in the world. If you don't know what humanoid is, it's a term we use in Access Consciousness, basically to just refer to the people in the world that are different, that have a different perspective, a different way of functioning. Our brains are wired differently. Humanoids care so much more about that kind of, like being in nature, and, just like nurturing ourselves, and, these enjoyable experiences, but we like we believe in the cult of money, and we're like, well, okay, money, 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 and then I can enjoy money, 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 then I can choose, rather than, no, my reality is joy, my reality is pleasure, my reality is being alive, my reality is something very different than what other people say it should be, and I'm going to choose that and continue to choose that and work with my body so that, all kinds of things can show up. And the amazing thing is that when we start to function from this inclusion of our body in the creation of money and choosing what our body is asking for, with money, or with choice and creation, which includes money, there's always going to be more, and that's another kind of like one of those wonderful things about humanoids that is also can feel like a curse, because you're like, okay, whatever, like I had the emerald ring, I got the emerald ring. I'm so grateful for it. I love it. I've had it for more than 10 years now. It's been, such a gift. And it's like, okay, well now, I'm like, what else? Like I want some diamonds and some pearls and, some rubies. Those are next on my, list of gems. I don't have any rubies yet. But there's always going to be the next thing that you would like to have. Now, everywhere that you've judged you as wrong for that more, the hungriness, the hunger of more, will you destroy and uncreate that? Right, wrong, good, bad, all 100, puck, shorts, boys, povads, bases, creations, beyonds. Because if you're like, yeah, of course I'm going to desire more. That's how I roll. Like as soon as that emerald is on my ring or on my finger, or maybe even before, there's going to be more that I'm going to be asking for. Like there's going to be more than I'm asking for in so many ways all the time, and we judge that because we kind of like, so many of us grow up being told like, can't you just be grateful for what you have, but we think that if we like just shrink that, the desire for more, that somehow it'll be easier, but what if the desire for more is you running in the direction of more money, like faster and more abundantly and more powerfully than you can imagine? So like if choice is what creates, and enjoying your life and thriving is what creates money, and doing all this with the inclusion of your body, perhaps choosing even more and running even faster and asking for even more and having even more pleasure and hedonism and all of the things is what will create even more money coming into your life at an even faster pace. And sometimes we slow down and we back off because we're like, oh yeah, I think I went too far. That was too much, anywhere too much is a bad thing. Will you destroy and uncreate that? Right, wrong, good, bad, all 100, puck, shorts, boys, povads, bases, creations, and beyonds. My Armenian grandmother had a name for me that was too much in Armenian. That was my nickname growing up as a little girl. That's what she called me. I'm like, oh yeah, that's my name. Too much, that's my name. And so when we learn to be grateful for that, I really appreciate that, enjoy it. Yeah, I'm super different. I desire more, bigger, better, faster yesterday, you know? That's where we really start to play on the playground that's fun for us and our bodies. And when you're like, okay, body, I'm going to let you lead. I'm going to let you lead. And I'm going to say yes to what you're asking for, even if I don't know how I'm going to create it, even if I don't think I can create it. Again, that's poverty. You can do poverty. I can't afford it. I can't create it. I'm not capable. Or you can do, great. What's it going to take? What's it going to take for this to show up? And like with the ring, when I chose that ring, it was, it went away with Chris, like, because I was paying it off, right? So I didn't have it for over a year, I guess. But it was in my world. Of course, I took a picture of it on my hand. I looked at it all the time. But the ring was contributing to me. The whole universe was like, oh, you believe in your capacity to have. You are honoring your body. You believe in choice as the creative, the thing that creates, and you as the choosing one, as the thing that creates. The universe was like, great, because that's, again, what shows up. Our point of view creates our reality. The universe shows up to meet us exactly where we are, and where we're going. And if you tell yourself the story of, I cannot, and I will not, and my body's demanding, and my body's a pain in the ass, and blah, 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 then again, that's what you will have. So you get to choose your point of view, your points of view. You get to choose those. And it's so incredible to see how much our bodies facilitate us into the magic that we be, and the magic that is possible when we flip everything on its head and, right side up. I had a lady in my class this past weekend in Manchester, and it was so great. She kept saying, you turn everything right side up, because for humanoids, it's like, oh yeah, that's right side up, right? It's not it, but everybody else would say it's upside down. Right? So you turn it right side up, and then you're like, oh yeah, this is true for me. And how do we know that? We know that by the lightness that shows up, the expansiveness that shows up in our world when we're like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna gift my body the beauty, the pleasure, the hedonism that it desires. I'm going to gift that. I'm going to work with my body. When my body asks for something, perhaps it's my body showing me something that is possible. And I'm going to say yes to that, and see how that creates and what shows up as a result. And you and your body, then from there, you facilitate yourself into this completely different universe of creation that just keeps opening and opening and opening and becoming greater as you do, and as your life does, and your living does. And this is what I call the creation of living. And this is my podcast, is that title. We have a lot of cool stuff on my website about this phrase that I've coined, the creation of living. Anita's taking the 3-day body class. Yes. Yeah, and it's all of these, it's when we live from that space of the prioritization of the fun, the joy, the pleasure, the hedonism, all those things, that that we do engage with the creation of living as this active, ever expanding, very dynamic space of like the unfolding of what's actually possible, and the magic of that, and how magical we are when we prioritize all of those things that we're not supposed to, that are not really, they're not necessary, they're not important, they're not valuable, but to us, they are, so I hope that was a contribution. And I wasn't really intending to talk the whole time, but sometimes that happens, so it did. So what are you gonna do? But I'm grateful for you guys being here, and in the future as well, anybody listening later. It's just such a different way of being, and I know when I first kind of was introduced to this whole idea, of choice creating and being really inclusive of my body, I was like, I could just I could just see if it works, you know? Um, and I did. I mean, there's a whole story I could tell, but I won't, about like choosing this body class with Gary Douglas, and there were all these prerequisites. And it was just like, my body was like, I want to be there, And so I just chose it. And I was like, the worst that can happen is that it won't work. So what? Who cares? The best thing that could happen is it will, and it did. And then I was like, well, shit, what else am I capable of, And so magic begets magic, choice begets choice, pleasure begets pleasure, including your body in the creation of money begets including your body in the creation of money, And this is how we go. And there's no limit to what you can choose. So, and that's just such a huge part of what I wish for people to know and to be able to live and to see, is there really is no limit to what it is that you can choose. It's just the limitations that you decide are true. But otherwise, there isn't. And the magic that shows up, that rises up to meet you when you're willing to choose the ridiculous, the impossible, the unnecessary, all those things, it's pretty phenomenal. And you can't be guaranteed that it will, but it does. You have to start walking in the direction of in a different direction, to discover what's there for you. And for you, it's going to be unique and different and interesting, and your own path. And that's really the beauty of all of us. And I wish to live in a world where there's as many really deeply, truly happy people living a life of pleasure and joy and ease and glory and fun. That's the planet I want to live on. And I can't control anybody else's choice, but I do recognize that I have choice. And when I choose, then I get to see the magic that's possible, and then share it with anybody who's interested in something greater. So thank you for being interested, and for being here. And hopefully I'll see y'all. Some of you guys I'll see tomorrow, and some of you I'll see maybe next week and next year, and we'll see. So thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Bye.